Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. On my Instagram page, I asked a question of what video you guys wanted to see next, and the one that won by a pretty surprising amount was a garage gym tour. I say surprising because when you think about the usable space that I have here in the garage, it's only really 100 square feet. So there's not a lot to see necessarily, but that being said, in that 100 square feet of usable space, I have over $11,000 worth of equipment once you factor in shipping and taxes and all that good stuff. Now, truth be told, it does pay literally to have a YouTube channel because I'm able to fund a lot of these purchases. Not to mention, in some cases, I do get discounts or items for free in order to review them for you. But even though that's the case, a lot of these items were still paid for out of pocket, which is why when you request certain videos on certain pieces of equipment, I can't always do that because I just can't afford it and or it doesn't make sense for me to buy them. So I'm gonna show you everything I have here in this gym, and with that, I'll give you a little bit of feedback on every item, just in case you're interested. Chances are I probably have a review on them already, but let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. Okay, so as we start here, I'm gonna give you a quick panoramic view of the huge space, being 100 square feet workable, that I have, and then I'll come back and kind of touch on everything. So on the left-hand corner here, you have a lot of odds and ends, shoes, sleeves, wraps. Then go to belts and bands. You have the rack itself. Over there, you have some adjustable dumbbells, an adjustable bench, and then over here, you have a deadlift platform, wagon wheels, the weights that I use, and then a bar holder. So that is literally my entire gym. Now, again, I said 100 square feet because if you take into consideration where I work, which are these mats over here, this is a 8x6 area, and then there's also a 2x6 just added on to the side over here, and then just a 4x8 deadlift platform. That's the only places that I really train. So you can get away with a lot, I would say, for a little, but again, saying that this costs $11,000, you can get away with a lot for a lot. So let's go ahead and start over here. All the shoes, just some quick feedback. I have the Noble high tops. Never did a review on these, most likely because I don't use them. I just don't find them that comfortable. They're a pain in the ass to get on. They're super tight. I don't find them to be that beneficial. I thought they would be an adequate solution or adequate pairing with the CrossFit Lite TRs or the power shoes that you see from Reebok. I like these a lot. I just haven't been lifting right now in flat shoes, but when I do, I wear those a lot, or I wear my Adidas wrestling shoes, which you can see right here. I think these are like the Combat Speeds or something. I like these a lot too, even though initially I wasn't a big fan. From there, you have probably two of the greatest weightlifting shoes ever. You have the Adidas AdiPower and the Nike Romaleo 2s. I like those. You've recently seen the video here I've done on the Notorious Lift slippers. Those are right here. I do have some other shoes. The Position USA R1s. They're actually in the box, but I use these for all my squatting right now. And underneath, you have some shoes from Iron Tanks, which are actually literally quite loud. Oh, as I bend down to open this, those nice old red shoes. I don't wear those that much. Find that they're a little bit tight for me, but they're there as well. Other stuff you have over here, just odds and ends. Some really light dumbbells. Those are from my wife. You also have some really sweet chalk from Throw Bros, adequately named. You have some foam rolling pads and whatnot, as well as some pads to use for hip thrusters, a loading pin, some extra hardware for my rack, bar cleaning stuff, and then some knee sleeves from Iron Tanks as well, which I just haven't really got to yet. You then have an odds and ends shelf for water and things like that, bubbles, which who doesn't need bubbles in their gym? And up top, you have, again, some more stuff, some bubbles and markers. You have this little bad boy, which I've done a video on, which is super loud, point in case. Some cleaning materials, resistant bands, a bunch of knee sleeves. And the funny thing about all these knee sleeves is I actually got rid of a bunch, and I get a lot of questions on knee sleeves. And truth be told, out of all of the knee sleeves I have, I like these ones the best. These are the Stoics. They're just inside out. You can see in there. I'll do a video on knee sleeves, but I mean, it doesn't really matter to me for the most part. If you size any knee sleeve correctly, they're bound to provide adequate support. But where you really start to see the difference in some of the brands is the build quality and the longevity that you have. And of course, who can forget this favorite from the last gym? He-Man, Skeletor, Orko. Can't go wrong with the pizza party. Then a bunch of wraps for your wrists, some elbow sleeves, hip circles, all sorts of odds and ends, headbands. So just some stuff that way. From here, we go on to belts and bands. I have a lot of Pioneer belts. I have two right here, prongs, one of which is the Pioneer cut, which I like a lot. I've done a video on that. I find this very helpful when I travel. That's a 10 millimeter. I then have a 13 millimeter single prong, which is a pain in the butt to deal with because it's very thick. That's what she said. And I just don't like prong for the most part until, again, I met that Pioneer cut version. My go-to belts are down here, which are my lever belts. There's a 13 millimeter suede belt, a 10 millimeter suede belt, and a 13 millimeter leather belt, which is co-branded by Iron Tanks again. And then just some blocks under, which I don't use anymore because I have wagon wheels, which I'll show you in a second. Now, as part of that, in the corner, you have tucked away here an umbrella, since we have to brave the weather to come out here to this garage. But you also have some pin safeties, which is what I got initially when I bought my rack. I do not like them that much. They're a pain in the butt to adjust, and they end up damaging the bar over time. But I wanted to have some just to have some, because at the time the pricing was off on them compared to the safety straps on Rogue. I brought it to their attention. They've since fixed it, but at the time it was just more economical to buy the pins as is and buy the straps separately. So that brings us to the rack itself, which is probably the centerpiece, as I trip over stuff here, of the actual gym. This is the Rogue RM3. I love it. I've done a lot of modifications to it, including adding things like that top cross member and moving the pull-up bar to the middle. I have the custom nameplate that you see here. I also have a bunch of other stuff like the Rogue roller cups. Not the Rogue roller cups, the Ghost roller cups. I've been getting some questions on these recently. In fact, more so recently than when I first posted the video. I think they're decent rollers. However, they're very expensive, and I still think they have some issues, namely being that there's a little bit of slop in the cup. Doing a bad job showing this one-handed. And the return roller feature on it, while in theory it's nice, if that wants to focus. In theory it's nice, but for me, like squatting, I like to push the bar into the cup, and having this lip here makes it a little bit more annoying. And then when you rack the bar and then have it drop down, again, a little bit of an inconvenience. I actually prefer these custom ones that I had made instead. And again, I've done a video on those as well. Down here, you also have a little bit of a teaser surprise, as this just came today. This is the Rep Fitness Power Bar EX. So it's their new stainless steel power bar. I just posted about this on Instagram. Very impressed so far. I'll talk about that in a future video. It's resting on the Rogue Sandwich J Cups, which were an upgrade. I like them a lot. The big difference between these and the normal J Cups are that you have the UHMW all throughout, so it protects the bar better. I do find that these tend to be a little bit longer, so depending on what your preferences are, you might find these get in the way, but I do like these because it protects the bar. And again, if you're spending as much money as I have on a home gym and some of this equipment, you want to make sure that it's protected adequately. Down below that, you have the safety straps, which I love. Safety straps are better than pins. They're my probably favorite way to fail if you're going to fail, because they have a little bit of slack in them. So you're not going to be reverbing a lot. You're not going to be damaging the equipment. So these are a way to go. I've talked about adding these pins to it. Again, I recently did a video on that, so I'm not going to talk about this in this particular video. One of the things that I did go ahead and buy for this rack, however, were these plate storage pins, which, to be honest, I have not used. I initially got these because I thought with the Rogue RM3, which again you can see here, it's not a very deep rack. It's about 30 inches deep, and I worried that racking the weights could potentially leave the rack to tip over unless it was either bolted down, which is going to be tough for me to do on a cement slab like this, and not to mention I'm renting, so I don't want to do that, or building a platform to bolt it to, which I didn't want to do. So instead, what I ended up doing was I got these plate loading pins to put plates on. Never materialized because as a late add-on, I added in these Rogue Monster half rack feet, which are awesome. I wish these come as standard. In fact, if you take a look at some of Rep Fitness's new racks that they're teasing, it looks almost identical to what my setup is right here with a colored rack with just the black feet on it. These add a ton of stability and a lot better options too for adding things like band pegs holding them there, so you can actually lift in the rack and outside the rack. It's really a good option, especially again if you don't want to bolt things down, which with my conversations with people, a lot of people don't want to do. Inside the rack, you have that custom drop-in bench that I did. I like it. It does need some work. One of the bad things about making things from scratch or having them custom made is that it's tough to get adequate measurements for things. So this is probably a little bit lower than it should, and the pins don't line up exactly where I would like to have them line up with the band pegs in order to make it secure. But again, it's a work in process. It does have the Rep Fitness fat pad on it, which is a fantastic deal. It's one of the best deals you can get on just a straight up pad. If you're looking for it, I think it cost me $50 shipped. It's somewhat grippy in there, and it does a good job at what it is. Other things that are on this rack that I can talk about: the slinger. Good in theory, bad in execution. Rogue has been teasing a lot of plate-loaded options they'll be releasing soon. I'm very excited to see those because I think it's going to make that thing actually more usable versus just using the band resistance. Other things I have on here, a new addition is the Rogue Monster Landmine, which you can kind of see there. I'm going to adjust the exposure just a little bit. I haven't really used it yet, but it feels super smooth. And I wanted to add this back in just because I found landmines a great way to do some like one-armed rows, or even just add an attachment and doing T-bar rows versus just doing stuff with a barbell like pendlay or bent over or whatever. So I decided to go ahead and add that. Speaking of Rogue, while we're still on that, you'll notice there's a lot of Rogue stuff in here. The Rogue adjustable bench, which you can see right here. If I zoom out, sorry about that. I think it'd be the first time I was on a camera. The Rogue adjustable 2.0 bench, I've done a video review on this. This thing is a tank. It weighs 130 pounds. It's awesome, super solid, but it's expensive. It's like $545. And then with shipping, you have to do it freight because it weighs so much. It ends up being like $700. So fantastic bench, but if you're buying it as a standalone, I think there's probably some better options out there. But if you're buying a gym setup, this is something that I think you can't really beat the quality or stoutness of it. Speaking of stoutness, in the corner there, you have the Iron Master adjustable dumbbells, another one of my favorite things. This thing also not cheap. You get the 75-pound set with stand like I have here, and you also get the 120-pound extension kit. So each of those dumbbells goes from 5 to 120 pounds. I also have the kettlebell attachment down beneath it. It's going to run you probably close to $1,000, which you're probably saying is super expensive. And you know what? You're exactly right. It is. But when you take it into consideration, if you were to get a 5 to 120 pound dumbbell set as a standalone, you're probably talking about $2-3 grand, maybe even more if you go with the urethane dumbbells. And not to mention, it would literally probably take up this entire back wall in order to put all of that there. So pricey, yes, but in my opinion, one of the best adjustable dumbbells you can get that actually feel like real dumbbells. And again, I have a standalone video review on that. Hanging out here in the corner, a couple other things. You have the hip thruster bench. I recently did a review on that. I like it a lot. In fact, I use it a lot more than I thought I would. And between that and the wagon wheels, which we'll get to in a second, it's really allowed me to do things that I didn't think I would have time for or didn't have a preference for doing before because they were such a pain in the ass to set up. Underneath that, you have a Rogue gun rack, which is great, but just with this garage space and me not wanting to necessarily bolt that into the walls, I haven't set it up. And I have some extra pieces down there for my cross members just as replacements, and my old Rogue nameplate behind it in the box that you see. So that's one side of the gym. Coming over to this side, there's not as much to see. There's the Rogue deadlift platform, which has my custom insert that I did in it. That sticker that I did, if you have questions about it, let me know. I get a lot of questions on it. I got it at a company from New York. I think it ended up costing like $80. It's like 3 feet by 3 feet. It's been great because it's like 5 years old and it's held up extremely well. There are some nicks and stuff on it, but that's to be expected. But for being that old and using it as much as I do and having high traffic on it, it's lasted really well. But inside of that, or it's inside, I would say, the Rogue deadlift platform, which I think is okay. I think it's basically just a cosmetic thing. It doesn't add a lot unless you're looking to do band pulls, which I don't do a ton of. I've been trying to implement more of those in with other things besides just deadlifts, but like banded pendlay rows has been good to do. But for the most part, it's a glorified frame and it costs like $300 before shipping. So it's an expensive frame at that. There in the corner, you have two items. You have the Genesis jack, which is a great jack. Again, a sweet video that I wore a Wolverine costume for while doing that review, as well as the wagon wheels, which I like a lot. Again, in combination with the hip thruster, I've been doing a lot of things that I wouldn't have done before because setting up these block pulls were a pain in the butt, and loading the bar in between sets and working up was just always something I didn't really feel like doing. These wagon wheels make things so much easier and so much better, and I really like them. From there, we have a Titan Fitness Olympic tree. I didn't like this as much previously because when I had the competition style plates, the tolerances weren't good enough and I couldn't actually fit the plates on there, so it was not usable for a long time. And I used it to hang all of my belts and bands on. But since switching over to the Rogue 6 shooters, which I'll give you a little bit better view on here, which by the way are awesome plates, I like them a lot. They do fit on there, so I'm using it for that. It does also come with 2 barbell holders, so I throw the bars I don't like in there because the actual bar holders are not padded or have any plastic protecting, so it tends to scuff up the sleeves a little bit. In there is a Synergy curl bar, which can only be used in the squat rack, of course. And behind that is the Titan Blues City Olympic barbell, which in my opinion is a decent first attempt at a USA-made product from Titan, even though it's just a rebrand from another company. But the price point is more than an Ohio bar, which kind of prices it out for me only because the Ohio bar is better quality and you get more value out of it. Tucked away in the corner, you have the Kabuki Shoulder Rock. Truth be told, this was a bad purchase on my part. I bought it on a Black Friday for I think like 80, 90 bucks. So good deal, but I think I've literally used it maybe 3 times since I've owned it for like 2 or 3 years. And I just really don't see a use for it in my training. So bad buy on my part. From there, we have a Valor Fitness, I would say. Valor, getting fancy here. 9 bar holder. I got this on Amazon. I got this only because, again, my gun rack I didn't want to put on the wall. So this would be an easy way to go ahead and set up all my bars. When I moved in here, I didn't have a bunch of bars. I had gotten rid of most of them. Only had the essentials, but I've since outgrown this. So as of right now, there's 9 bars in there. There's 2 bars in there. And another bar there that you just saw. That's 12 barbells in 100 square feet of space. Again, way too much. Now, some of these are, again, for review purposes, but some of them are just because I like bars, like getting my hand on those hard shafts, if you know what I'm saying. Let's do a quick run through of what you see here. We'll start in the back. That's the Elite FTS Safety Squat Bar. Fantastic bar. Safety Squat Bar is probably my favorite specialty bar, although now you can get the Titan V2 for about 200 bucks, and I would probably go that route if you're interested. In front of that, you have the Rogue Stainless Steel Ohio Bar, which I haven't done a review on, but I got it out of the Boneyard for, I want to say like $250, $275. I really don't have a need for a 28.5 millimeter bar with not center knurling, but I like stainless steel, especially being here in the garage. They hold up extremely well, and they have a really good feel to it because there's no coating on there. So it was just too good of a deal to pass up. In front of that is the Rogue Stainless Steel Ohio Power Bar. So I have both the Power Bar and the regular Ohio Bar. And this Ohio Power Bar is probably my daily driver at this point, only challenged by what's right next to it, which is the Kabuki Next Generation Power Bar. And again, I'll try to kind of get some better views here as I adjust the exposure as we're by the sun. And the Kabuki bar is great. I like it a lot, but it's expensive. I think before shipping and tax, this thing retails for like $670, $690. And it's a great bar, but probably not at that price considering that you can get the stainless steel Rogue Ohio Power Bar for like 400 bucks. I actually paid $250 for this one because, again, it's a Boneyard bar. And the Kabuki bar, while great, it's electroless nickel, but it's very expensive. And the funny thing about the Kabuki bar is that when they first released this, their big thing was about the grip and the knurl on it, which is great, but they marketed it as a volcano type knurl, which is very grippy. And it's actually like a mountain type knurl, so the exact opposite knurl of what they said it would be. Behind that, you have the Bells of Steel Bare Naked Power Bar. This recently went up in price. I think it's like $250 shipped now, but when it first came out, it was $197. It's a fantastic bar for the value because, as you can tell from the sleeves up there, this one right here, it's like a competition style collar, very thin, like you see in a Lico or the Rogue Ohio Power Bar 20 kg version. It's bare steel and it does rust. It's one of the videos that I showed you when I did the cleaning a bare steel bar with actual a drill bit attachment. But for the money, again, it's a fairly good value. Behind that, which is tough to see because it's bowed, is the Strong Arm Sport Buffalo Bar. And again, for the money, this one retails for $297. It recently went up, which is something you'll see with a lot of the companies that import from overseas. With the tariffs changing, with the everything that's going on, all those prices are going to go up, which in turn are going to be passed on to you. Done a review on it. It's a good bar overall. I don't find I use it much, and if you're looking for a specialty bar, especially one for squatting, I think the Safety Squat Bar is the better way to go. The other things we have in here are 2 squat bars, which are going to be tough to see. Apologize for the angles. One of which is the Strong Arm Sport Squat Bar, done a review on. Again, good value, solid bar. I like it a lot. In front of it is a newer bar, which I owe you a review on, which is the Strength Shop Squat Bar, which retails for $397 in a nickel finish. It's nice, it's fully knurled. It's more expensive, obviously, but I'll talk about a video on squat bars But if I take a look at that poll that I showed you at the beginning of this video, not a lot of people wanted to see that right away. So it might be some time before I get to it. I do like squat bars, especially if you squat or compete in a competition that uses them, or if you have a rogue rack and have the issue of banging the plates on the rack when you walk the bar out. Those make things much, much easier. And then finally, last but not least, in front of that is the Strong Arm Sport conventional deadlift bar. So it's a deadlift bar that has all smoothness in the middle. They have a sumo bar, which is kind of the opposite, where the knurl is in the middle and everything else is smooth. That way you don't rub your legs. Again, good bar for the value, especially when you compare it to some of the other bars on the market. So I think that covers everything. Let me flip the camera around real quick and we'll talk again in just a second. All right, so there you go. That is my garage gym, 100 square foot, $11,000 investment that I love. I like a lot of this stuff. As you can tell, that's one of the reasons I invest a lot of money, have multiple stuff. Plus I do video reviews to help save you money. Obviously, this probably isn't economical for most of you out there, or pretty much anyone out there outside of maybe a few special individuals like Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. But it's just something that I'm interested in. As I mentioned, for almost everything that I covered in this video, I have an in-depth video review of it. I'm not going to link everything in the description box because we went through a lot, but you can just go to my channel and search for the name or the brand and it should pop up. But if you have other specific questions that those videos don't answer, or just questions in general about this build or what I showed you in this video, make sure you leave that comment in the description box below, in the comment section below, and I'll get to it when I can. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.